Welcome, beautiful souls, beautiful beings. Thank you for being with me today. It's clearing your energy, your energy. Thank you for being with me at this time to receive this message today. I'm so grateful to all of you for staying in tune with my messages, and hopefully today will relate to somebody, because we all got toxic families and we gonna talk about it. And for those with the healthy families and the healthy family dynamics, you can listen to this too, because you can help somebody. You can definitely help somebody out. Let's clear our energy a little bit more. Today's gonna be a bit of a heavy topic, heavy conversation, but it'll be good. There comes a moment in your healing journey when you realize that love and family are not enough to justify your suffering. There comes a time where your peace becomes more valuable than tradition, obligation, or bloodlines. Today I'm going to talk to you about why it's okay and necessary to step outside of a toxic, karmic family lineage and just walk away from cycles, people, spaces, and interactions that simply do not bring you peace. I've had to experience myself what does family mean to me. A relative is just related, but a family is a strong, powerful word that I feel like didn't match up with what I was experiencing. So we're gonna talk a little bit about it. No hate, only love, and just learning to put yourself first and knowing that it's okay. So the biggest thing I'm gonna start off with is family is not equivalent to access. And no. If you think that, we're gonna need to rewire some of your neural pathways and reprogram your subconscious mind to know that only you decide who you allow access to you, regardless of who they are, okay? Because you are in your power, you are a sovereign being, and we often give our power away to titles. And so once you learn to take that power back, you will just have so much more peace in your life. So let's dive into this. We are, as a society, are raised off of a belief that family is everything. But nobody ever teaches us that being related to someone doesn't automatically give them access to your energy, your emotions, or your healing space. You don't owe people closeness just because you want to share a space or a home together. And for me, now that I live by myself with my partner, I've been able to define what home really is and be able to create a safety with myself. And when I lived with relatives, I did not feel safe. I felt like a burden. I felt like I was just there, caught up in everybody's drama, and I had to be there because I owed them this and that, because I lived with them. I even had to pay to live with them, even though other relatives that are older than me didn't have to pay to live with them. I ended up living with my grandparents most of my life, and there came a point where I was like, oh, I see these dynamics. And I'm not saying any of my other relatives or my aunts and uncles had a better experience than I did. All I'm saying is that the dynamics were just very toxic and made no sense to me. You're claiming to be a family, but you want me stuck here. You want to take from me. You don't want to help me build and grow. And so for me, that's not family. It's different if it's like, hey, can you help me out? Let's work together. But no, it's like, you give me all that you have, and that's all that matters, because you have to pay to live here, because you are a burden. And so now that I live in my own space and I have control over my peace and my interactions and who I allow in and out, I haven't had any family member over to my space, and I don't ever plan on it. You don't owe people closeness just because you shared a home or a shelter. You know, at this point, it was a shelter for me. You don't owe people loyalty just because you share DNA. Newsflash, 99.9% of all beings share same DNA. I don't know if you knew that or not. But, going back, you don't owe people your silence just to avoid being called disrespectful. So when you grow up in a negative environment, a negative home, a negative space, and you are always walking on eggshells, anticipating people's emotions, their reactions, to keep yourself safe, eventually you learn how to become a people pleaser. You learn how to just give them what they want so you can go back to doing what you're doing and have some sense of peace within your nervous system, because you're already living in a high stress space where your nervous system cannot regulate in a healthy, balanced way as is. And when we're children and we're developing, all of these factors are so important into the adult that we are today. And it's okay for us to go back and rewire some things. It's not going to be comfortable, but you are not your experiences. You are not your traumas. Your traumas do not define you. They definitely mold and they shape you, but they do not have a control over you. But we will get into that later on in the video. Real relationships, even family, must be built off of mutual respect, mutual consideration, safety. Safety is so important. Emotional maturity. Like, nobody wants to be around people who don't know how to self-regulate their emotions, and then everybody else ends up having to take the whipping for their emotions because now it's a projection battle and whatever. You also need healthy boundaries and peace for any type of relationship that you are in. And if those things are not met, then that is just where you have to realize, okay, am I attached to this person because of these experiences? And I'll make a different video about different attachments. And you have to ask yourself, what am I holding on to this person? Because we get used to it. Eventually it becomes an addiction to us, that we get used to these unhealthy bonds and dynamics, and that's all that we know, and then we end up recycling unhealthy relationships. But all of these factors are very important to break through and heal yourself and and become your own safe space, and really embody that sacred self-love for yourself that you were more than likely not taught. Without those things, you are not protecting your family, a relationship, a friend. You are actually sacrificing yourself to it. And self-sacrifice is not love. I'm not trying to be a martyr for nobody. I'm sorry. As a Black community as well, and I think just as women, actually, I'm not gonna even put any boundaries on this. If you're a human being, we grow up in a society, in a world where we are taught through religion, through programming, that we have to sacrifice ourselves, and for us to love is to sacrifice ourselves. And that's not healthy. That's not healthy. So we're gonna scratch that. And that's also another thing you have to work on as you evolve and you heal, is that you do not equivalent self-love to self-sacrifice. Okay? We don't gotta save nobody. We have to save ourselves. What has saving somebody else ever done for you? I'm not saying if it's like a life or death situation, you're like, I can save this person because I'm set and I know I'm good and I'm capable of doing this. Or if you feel the need to, but most of the time, our nervous system thinks we're in a life or death situation because of generational wounds and karmic cycles that have been passed down to where we had to live in like fight or flight. But right now, we put so much emotion and energy towards these certain small interactions and situations that our nervous system now thinks that that is so intense and real. But in actuality, you can let it go. You're safe to choose yourself. Moving on, karmic lineages are generational cycles. Family karma does not just show up through genetics. It shows up as emotional patterns, survival mechanisms, and certain behaviors that have been passed down, through generations to generations. And some examples of karmic patterns are narcissistic traits. Don't even get me started. You have a mother, you can have a father, you can have a sibling or a narcissistic, and then when you leave, you think, oh, I'm better now because they were like this, but you don't even see how this narcissism has also shaped you. Narcissism is so contagious. Another karmic lineage pattern is emotional repression, sadly so, control and dominance, gossip and slander, health issues, of course, not having self-love and being able to take care of yourself, mental illnesses, that's a whole other conversation, enmeshments, avoidance of accountability, emotional abuse. When you are in a family, for example, I'll give you an example. Today, I ran into my grandparents. I don't live with them anymore, and since my mom has passed away, I've been very distant with all of my relatives. I ran into them today, and they're like, we haven't heard from you in like forever. Why don't you ever call us back? Why don't you ever talk to us? Let alone, I set my boundaries with them last year because they were blowing up my phone talking about, oh, you don't need me no more? So, fine, whatever, blah, blah, blah. After my mom just passed away. I get we're all grieving, honey, but you're not going to come at me sideways and approach me that way. You're not going to leave toxic messages on my phone. You're not going to drag me into your drama and your relationship issues, okay? I am trying to heal. I just lost a whole other part of myself. And they didn't respect my boundaries then. And so now, all of a sudden, when I see them in person, they want to be like, oh, why haven't we heard from you? So many things have happened. Your grandmother's so crazy. She almost gave me a heart attack. And yada, yada, yada. I was just like, this is so ghetto. You're yelling at me in the middle of the parking lot around all these people because you just want to rant. You haven't even, and when you ask me how I'm doing, I'm like, actually, I've been depressed. I've been grieving. I miss my mom. And it's just like, oh, well, your grandmother this, your grandmother that. It's like, you guys can't hold space for me. And so simply approaching me like that out of the blue, and I haven't seen you guys for months or interacted with you guys, is not appropriate. You guys cannot hold space for me. And this is what I mean when I say emotional abuse, because they disregarded how I felt, and they just wanted to rant and talk about themselves, and they wanted to act like they needed something from me. And I was just like, no, we're not doing this. We're just not playing this game. Another karmic family pattern is normalizing dysfunction and self-neglect as loyalty. All of these things can be scrambled up in multiple different ways at different degrees and percentages and make up your childhood experience based off the interactions you have with relatives, okay? And it's a lot because you're just like, damn, there's one thing after another. Birds of the same feather flock together. I don't know if that's how it goes, don't quote me. But essentially, the company you keep is who you become, and it's also with relatives. And so if you don't want to be toxic, if you don't want to be narcissistic, if you don't want to react in a negative way, you have to put yourself first, and you have to step outside of that. Because we just don't inherit our relatives' last names or blood or whatever. We inherit their wounds, their coping mechanisms, their unspoken trauma, and their unhealed cycles. And I always ask myself, when I'm interacting with my relatives, you can feel this entanglement of emotions and unhealthy dynamics and traumas that nobody wants to talk about. And now it creates its own energetic being, and you just kind of like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Get that out of here. That's nasty. Cooties, I'm good. And you have to be okay with separating yourself from that, because how are you going to heal being around other people and other family dynamics that aren't even healing themselves? Like, you can not think about it and you can be avoidant, but if you're not putting in the work to heal and grow, then I also can't surround myself with you, because I don't want to be part of any of this dynamic. I don't want to hear how you feel, how you have hatred for your mother. I don't want to hear how your father makes you sick. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. And in fact, I got to a point where I just don't care. Cycle breakers are the ones that see the pattern clearly and realizing that continuing this pattern is no longer an option for them. That's where I'm at. That is not an option for me. Like, my whole experience I had today, I was just like, ew. Like, I really enjoy my peace so much more than interacting with you guys. And I'm so grateful, and I give my gratitude and my prayers every day that I don't live there anymore, because living there made me sick, literally. Living there, I was absorbing everybody's emotions. I was absorbing their traumas, and I couldn't separate them from me. I ended up in the hospital a lot, and I ended up having to take care of myself, and nobody cared enough to change for me. To be like, you know what, you are having gut issues and liver issues. What can we do to help you? It's more just like, you did this to yourself. I told you not to take them vitamins. Them vitamins were toxic. And I'm just like, people be delulu, and you can't rationalize with people who are delulu. And you can't make them see you. You can't make them feel any type of way. People who live in their own delusions will never be able to give you what you need. Not even relatives. Love without peace is not love. It is survival attachment. When I say this, we grow up in these family dynamics, and this is all we know. It took me being with my partner for me to know what love is. It took me meeting his family for me to know what love is, and that's really sad, because I just turned 26 like last week. How you gonna tell me this whole time that the whole journey I experienced with family and relatives was not love? It was survival attachment? No wonder I feel so incomplete. A lot of us mistake love for emotional intensity, chaos, guilt, or obligation. But real love is safe. It feels safe. You feel comfortable. It nourishes your spirits. These relationships I've had with my relatives have never made me feel safe. They've never nourished my spirit. And I was always thinking, maybe it's me. Maybe I gotta change. Maybe I gotta open up more. Maybe I gotta be more vulnerable. And maybe, they'll start to see and change too. And that's just not it, love. Been there, done that. If love comes with anxiety, confusion, emotional manipulation, guilt trips, criticism disguised as concern, or the need to shrink yourself, that is not love. That is survival attachment. And I found myself feeling like I always have to shrink myself around family. I don't feel like any of my relatives actually know who I really am. And I'm actually okay with that now. It used to bother me because I used to feel so misunderstood all the time. And I'm just like, I just wish somebody would try to understand me, because I'm trying to understand everybody. Like, this is why you respond this way. Oh, this is your favorite color. This is your favorite food. This is what you like. And now it's just like that effort has not been put into me ever. You know, and I'm not shrinking myself anymore. If I shrink myself anymore, I will lose myself. And the only way for me to feel comfortable is for me to stand in my authenticity. And no, I'm not going to entertain your negativity. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm not going to do things you want me to do. I'm not going to create space for you to try to dim me. There's no point in life in playing this game of tug and war. Life is too short for you to put yourself in situations where you don't feel valued, where you don't feel loved, and then you feel like you're suffocated, and you feel like you're misunderstood, and then you start to become depressed, and you blame everything on you. Life's too short. Just don't put yourself in the interaction. Take yourself out of it. Your nervous system knows the difference between attachment and love. Your spirit knows the difference. Your body knows the difference. And the whole experience of when I lived there and I was getting sick, I wasn't aware of my body intuition. All I knew that I was depressed. I was okay with dying because it would have been better than living there. And, you know, eventually I met my knight in shining armor, if you're watching this video. And yeah, I started living with him. He showed me what love is. I got healthier. And my body knew the difference. My body's like, oh, I can just not feel clenched up all the time. I can release. I can breathe. I have peace with you. I was like, this is not the same as what I'm used to. So it did take some adjustment. But now it's all that I know. Do interactions with my relatives, and I'm put into that like defense mode where I have to put up a wall. That is me and my body trying to protect myself from my past experiences, because it doesn't align with how I feel now at all when they're not around, and when I'm not interacting with them. So let's talk about when you outgrow the family frequency. We'll just call it that. When you begin to heal, when you begin to raise your vibration, your awareness grows and your intuition strengthens. And suddenly, certain conversations you have with relatives just feel shallow. The gossip feels draining. The toxicity is just like so old. You're just like, this is not it. The emotional immaturity becomes loud, and the shame, the guilt, and the manipulation becomes suffocating. Your nervous system literally rejects the frequency you've outgrown. So when you go back to toxic environments and you feel like this experience is heavier than it used to be, it's because it is. It's because you've risen and you've grown, and that tank you don't fit that tank anymore, so it's gonna be uncomfortable. This is why being around certain relatives creates tension in your chest, blockages in your stomach, or irritation you can't explain. Your body is telling you you are not meant to live in this vibration anymore. If you live in this vibration, you will be sick. You will be misaligned. You will be imbalanced. And a lot of people don't realize that trauma bonds are the hidden chains that are still connecting you to toxic family. Let's explain what a trauma bond is. A trauma bond is an emotional attachment formed through cycles of pain, inconsistency, guilt, and temporary relief. Some signs of a trauma bond could be feeling responsible for other people's emotions, your relatives' emotions, feeling guilty for wanting space, feeling pulled back even when you know it's toxic, being overly forgiving because it's family, feeling like you must fix or save them. That one's a hard one, I'm not gonna lie. Feeling like you cannot leave or separate, and if you do, something bad will happen, okay? But you gotta think about it. Bad things were happening before, while you were in it, you know? So just let it go, you know? Like you can't control that. Once again, trauma bonds are not bonds of love, they are bonds of survival. Been a little bit of a heavy conversation, and things are coming up, and you're realizing certain things, and you might even break through by the end of this video. But let's ground that energy and let's come back to our zen again. You are safe to breathe. You are safe to exist. You are safe. We're gonna talk about how trauma bonds rewire your nervous system. This is why you have such a hard time letting go, setting yourself free from this cycle of survival and attachment. Growing up in a toxic family dynamic literally rewires your nervous system. There is no ands, ifs, or buts about it. That's exactly what happens, and that is exactly what it is. These toxic family dynamics teach your body that it's okay to normalize chaos. And I actually didn't realize this until my partner was like, you know, you always have very chaotic friends. And I'm just like, well, you know, I'm just used to it. That's not good. That's not good. That's good. It's good in a way of where you're like, okay, like I can tolerate much more than maybe someone who didn't experience this. But it's definitely not healthy because now I'm attracting these type of people that are also not in alignment with me. I'm just used to, right? Toxic family dynamics teach your nervous system that you have to feel unsafe when things are calm. It teaches our nervous system to confuse adrenaline with connection, to expect conflict, to over-explain, over-apologize, over-function, to anticipate emotional danger, and to stay hypervigilant. And these are all things that I've had to break through, and some things I still am breaking through. I feel like I still do anticipate emotional danger. Like I'm not at a place 100% where I can be like, I trust you so much with my emotions. I've been opening up more, I've been expressing more, and I'm starting to build this sense of safety. But I'm not at a point where I'm just like, if I completely have no sense of boundaries with my emotions and other people, that I feel safe, because I don't. Like, I feel like I would lose myself, and I feel like that's not safe to be. I'm also very hypervigilant. I'm very aware. I know patterns. That pattern recognition, when you got the tism, be coming in handy. And you know, I'm gonna make another video also on why being autistic and having a toxic family dynamic is just so much more like intense and overwhelming. And I just recently found out this year that I was autistic, and just like just reflecting on my journey as a child to now, I'm just like, damn, no wonder I'm so emotional, so sensitive, so overwhelmed. I got sick easily in toxic environments and situations. I felt so misunderstood, and I was just very aware of like, yo, if you do this, you could change this. I was that kid having adult conversations with things adults were doing that weren't right. Like, and now that I know that I have the tism, like, you know, it hits a little bit harder because you're just like, damn, people really didn't see me or acknowledge me to even consider that's what I had. But you know, also that's a whole other conversation when you live in a colored family. This rewiring of your nervous system due to these toxic family dynamics, the way your nervous system responds to the way your nervous system is rewired now affects your relationships. It affects your ability to trust, your work-life balance, your success, your self-worth, your boundaries, your emotional baseline. This is why leaving feels hard. And it is hard. Your nervous system is pretty much addicted to these certain patterns. Breaking trauma bonds literally requires distance. I've tried, you know, other ways, like, let's talk about it. Let me express myself. Let me create space. Let me just, you know, not interact for a short amount of time, then come back. But I'm realizing, like, yo, I'm just so much better when I'm not around them. And you cannot break a trauma bond in the same environment that created it. Why? Because it will keep the triggers that you're trying to break alive. The role that they assign to you still is active. They don't know who you are now. They don't see who you are now. They are just treating you like the only way they know how and remember how. So they're not even acknowledging who you really even are. So when you stick around, you're just subconsciously thrown back into that. Their expectations reinforce your old programming, and we're trying to get away from that. We're not trying to stay in the garbage. We're trying to get out the garbage. Okay, we don't need to recycle all of that. Your inner child gets pulled back into survival mode when we continue to interact and we do not create distance. And this is really important because as you're healing your inner child, you need to ask yourself, you need to ask your inner child, what is it about this person that doesn't make me feel safe? Have you ever asked your inner child before you do something and listen to what they say? I've started doing that a little bit more, and I've realized, like should I call them because I miss them, and this anxiety because this trauma bond, right? And then my inner child will be like, I don't feel safe doing that. And then when I don't do it, then I don't honor my inner child. And this is all about healing the inner child. Once again, distance is not abandonment, it's detox. It's important to rewire our minds because, especially if you experienced abandonment issues, I know way too much about it, don't get me started. But if you've lived in a cycle of abandonment, you don't want to abandon your family because then that would make you like the people who abandoned you, right? But you got to change the wording. You got to change the significance. You are detoxing from things that are not good for you. It's not just with food. It's not just with social media. It's not with what you watch, just what you watch or what you hear. You have to also do it with people and spaces and environments too. Like, detox all aspects of your life. And know that is not abandoning them. It's seeing and acknowledging yourself. Your spirit, your mind, your body needs space to reset from years of not feeling safe. To learn peace, to learn peace, to learn safety. To feel what it's like to breathe without pressure. For the longest time till now, I've always had a hard time breathing because I've always felt suffocated. And my body only knows that. And so rewiring my body through breath work is something that I have to do. You have to put in the work to heal yourself. You have to undo the ties and the knots yourself. You also may need space from relatives that are still invested in this toxic pattern and dynamic. This is going back to what I said earlier in the video. You're not just disconnecting from family members who hurt you, but also the ones who have enabled it, who are bystanders, who stayed silent, who minimized your pain and your suffering and how you were treated, or they recreated it. Even if they're not the main problem, so to say, they are still participating in this system. They're still living in denial. They're still repeating and playing the same roles. They're still emotionally entangled in the same energy. And that is still going to trigger old wounds within you. Their presence activates your old programming, even if they don't mean to. And that's what I had to realize, because I'm like, I feel like, they aren't the main problem, but also we all play a role, especially when you are a child and the people around you don't speak up for you. You don't feel safe, or you feel abandoned, or whatever the situation is, the story of your life. You do not need to interact with those same people when you're going through your healing journey, because they're just going to be triggers for you, and that's not going to benefit you. It is okay to put yourself first. You've been putting people before you your whole life. Healing requires being around people who support you, who see you, who acknowledge you, who can tend to the depth in your needs, not those who unconsciously anchor you to the old version of yourself. I hope you guys are taking in this wisdom. I hope you guys are taking it in, because I wish I would have had this information a long time ago. There should be zero. There should be zero guilt. The guilt you feel is inherited, love. It's inherited. It's passed on. No wonder you feel guilty for choosing yourself. It was never your guilt to begin with. It's bizarre. It's bizarre, I know. It's not your guilt. It's your generational conditioning. It's emotional manipulation dressed as a culture. It's survival instincts disguised as loyalty. You're not selfish for wanting space, wanting peace, protecting your heart, breaking the cycles, disengaging from the dysfunction, choosing solitude over chaos. You're not selfish for these things. What's selfish is your relatives wanting you to still be a part of it, because they don't feel like they're free. And if they're not free, then you can't be free. You're self-loving, you're self-aware, you're self-protective. You are breaking the generational karma. There is no guilt in that. Peace is the ultimate act of spiritual maturity. Peace means choosing yourself, even when family does not understand. Peace means letting go, even when guilt tries to keep you chained. And peace means honoring your soul over your bloodline. You do not heal by staying loyal to what hurt you. That is being delulu. You heal by stepping into alignment with your higher self. To conclude this video, you are not leaving your family. You are choosing yourself. Once again, you are not abandoning your family. You are abandoning the pattern. You can still love from afar. You can still give your blessings, give gratitude, give your prayers, love them from a distance that still travels through space and time. You can wish them well from afar. Stepping away is not betrayal. Betrayal would be abandoning yourself to stay in toxic dynamic and system that is not good for you. We have to learn to stop abandoning ourselves. We are worthy, we are deserving, we are loved, we are cherished. You matter. You are breaking the cycles, you are healing the lineage, and choosing a future rooted in peace. Have you ever thought that maybe you are the ancestor that is here to break the cycle? Maybe it's only been you. Maybe it's just you. Can you think how crazy that is, that throughout all of these generations, that these have been continuously going on and nobody has broken the cycle yet? But you are here, and that's a lot of weight, that's a lot of pressure. Don't get me wrong, I know. But just think about it. Think about how you making the steps to change can redirect this lineage away from what it used to be. And you should be proud of yourself for that, because you really are not missing out on anything. Peace is sacred. You deserve it. Stepping out of your karmic lineage is liberation. Take it in. Thank you so much for being with me this video. Please like, comment, subscribe. Share your experiences in the comments. You are not alone. This is a safe space. If any of these messages related to you and sparked something within you that you needed to know, leave an emoji in the comments below. Express whatever it is. Leave a 444, a 222. And please let me know more videos that you would like to see. Take care. Protect your peace. Stay grounded in love. And prioritize your healing. Love you guys.